Welcome to the Dad Show. Dad Sports Life. Let's go.
Today on the Dadger, we're joined by Jared Schutz, better known to many as the Wisco Dive Bar guy. Beyond the viral stories in Midwest dive bar culture, he's also a devoted father and someone who values community, connection, and showing up for people around him. Thanks for coming on, Jared.
I appreciate you having me. We've been trying to connect here for a while, and our crazy schedules find up.
It is. You're not the only one, so do not feel bad at all. It's. I have this issue with a lot of people. So, first question, maybe stupid question. Do you find it endearing being called the Wisco Dive Bar guy, or does that get old? Do you?
Yeah. I guess after 4 years and 2 months, I guess it's or four years and 2 weeks. I guess it's kind of grown on me. I guess so. I take on the full responsibility of carrying the weight of all the dive bars in the state.
Yeah. So if we can rewind here, born in Durand and raised in Spring Valley, lived
Yep.
in the country. Were you a farm kid or just grew up out in the country?
Yeah, I just grew up out in the country, but I did so much work. I had my grandpa's farm, and then cousins of my mom's, like they had a farm not too far down the road. So I kind of bounced around between the two of them, and there was even a third one that kind of mixed in. Just trying to stay busy in the summer, always working and trying to make a few extra bucks. It's funny if I think about how much money I made or didn't make back in the late '80s, early '90s, working on a farm, but it was hard work and
Yes.
and it was rewarding work. So
You talk about you had a brother that's 3 years older than you. Is that right?
yep,
Is
yep,
is he your only sibling?
yep. He's the only one. Yeah, just the two of us. I don't see him a whole lot. He's got his own stuff going on. Obviously, I'm on the road a lot, but yeah, it's probably a good thing for my mom's sake that it was just the two of us because I think we were a handful.
Yeah. Growing up, were you guys competitive with each other?
Oh, all the time. Like, yeah, I heard growing up with him in sports, playing football and running track. I would hear, when I was in like sixth, seventh grade, and I would hear from the teachers like how good of an athlete my brother was, and little did they know, I think I was a little better. I don't know, maybe I'm a little biased, but yeah, we were always competitive. Whether it was, if we were playing basketball on a gravel driveway growing up or anything we did, we were always competitive, which is I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely always pushes you to get better. Uh, I assume you're a fan of all Wisconsin teams.
Where I grew up, I'm probably 30 minutes from the Minnesota border. So, I mean, even growing up, you couldn't get Packer games on where I was at. And I had two uncles that one was they still are 10 and 7 years older. So, like when they were 16 and 13, I was 6 and 9. So they were always Minnesota sports fans. And so I've always been Minnesota sports fans, but I mean, I love going to games at Lambeau Field. There's nothing like it. I've been to 10 games at Lambeau, and anytime I get a chance to get over there, it's always fun, and it's always a weekend trip. It's not just show up for the game. It's a weekend trip, without a doubt.
I won't. I'm not going to judge you too hard. I'm a Wisconsin fan for everything except the Bears because they did their training camp where I grew up. So and around
Oh
UWT.
yeah,
So
yeah,
uh,
yeah. And where I grew up, back in the '80s and '90s, the Kansas City Chiefs were right down the road in River Falls. So I know there was a lot of
oh
Chiefs
yeah,
fans in the
yeah.
area growing up as well.
So if you had to rank your Minnesota sports teams, what would they go? What would they go? Is football number one for you?
Yeah, Vikings are always number one, and Twins are right there as well. I would say I'm getting to be less and less of a fan of the NFL because it's not the NFL that I fell in love with when I was younger. It just seems to be a little bit more staged, for lack of a better word. But I've just become more and more of a baseball fan as the years go on, and I love the Brewers too. I love small market baseball. So I'll always support the Brewers as well as the Twins.
Yeah, if we can shift here, so you end up, um, you talk a little bit about in podcast, John, where you had, you were, maybe deciding if you were going to go to college, maybe play some sports in college, but ultimately you go to a trade school, um, which is being more and more popular. It seems like. Do you have any good piece of advice if someone is deciding between college and trade school like that?
Well, I mean, I didn't go to trade school. I just got right into the trades and
Oh,
worked my
okay.
way up the ladder. But I'm all for the trade schools. I mean, get your hands dirty, and that's the way I learn the best is to get my hands dirty. If it's like buying a gas grill, I don't read the book until I start running out of parts or I have extra parts. But just get my hands dirty and jump right into it. And it's not, I mean, trade schools are good for some, and universities are good for others. It's, I guess it all depends on who you are as a person. But I mean, me personally, I like to. I'm a hands-on guy for sure.
So you're kind of used to the small town living. Do you think growing up and your appreciation for kind of those small town vibes ultimately led you into the dive bar scene without you even really realizing it at the time?
Yeah, I guess I never thought about that. I would say 100% that played a big role into my love for these small communities. And I mean, I've hit a lot of great bars in Milwaukee. Even just 2 days ago, I was down in Milwaukee, and there's some amazing bars in the big cities as well. But those ones that are tucked away out in the country or even these little tiny towns, they really hold a special place in my heart, without a doubt. They all do, but those ones especially.
Yeah, I know you talk about in the Passion podcast about how some of those kind of rural dive bars are almost encapsulated a era, a time capsule almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you ever think about how you're kind of bridging those two things? Kind of like the how it was done old school with technology, how it is now.
Yeah, I think so. And some of these bars, like you said, it's like walking right back into 1975 or 1985. And it's cool to see how, life is a little bit slower in some of these bars. It's You go to these bars, and a lot of these dive bars are, a handshake is the same thing as a written contract. And, just the small town mentality like that. And I just absolutely love it. But you can get that in Milwaukee, as like I was saying too. It's all about location and the people that frequent these places that make them so amazing.
In the Milwaukee Uncut podcast, you actually talk about having your first beer at 12. So I got two follow-up questions. One, did you I guess did you even like it? For most people it seems like it's an acquired taste. I know when I had my first one, it was not for me.
Yeah, I definitely didn't like it. I never even thought about that until Richie asked me. That was just 2 days ago that I did that
Yeah.
podcast, and I never really gave it a thought. And I think if I remember right, after I thought about it, I think the neighbors that lived across the street, I think their neighbor girl was a couple years older than I was, and we were over there, and I think we may have stole a can of Budweiser. And still to this day, I do not like the taste of Budweiser beer. Maybe it's because I ruined it at such a young age, but yeah, I really didn't get into, like, hey, I like drinking beers until I was probably out of high school.
So that leads to the second part of my question, I guess. A lot of people have that moment when they turn 18 or come of age where they share a drink with their dad. Did you ever have any kind of stories like that?
I don't think I ever did with my dad. And I know, like I mentioned to Richie, I don't think I've seen my dad drink a beer in 30 years. And,
Yeah.
and I remember, growing up as a kid, there were times where I remember my dad would come home kind of a little bit full sometimes if he was down at we grew up with a bar a mile and a half away, and sometimes he was in a snowmobile club and they would have snowmobile meetings or whatever. And
Yeah.
but that was early on. I mean, I'm maybe 6, 8 years old, but I don't remember my dad drinking much after that. I think my mom laid down the law, I think is what happened. So
uh so you said didn't like Bud don't like Budweiser, it sounds like, but did you have a go-to beer that you drank, when you freshly turned 20, or before 21, 18 to 21
Yeah, I think
age range?
it always seemed like when I moved to Menominee and we had a party house where we would always get half barrels. I remember back in the mid 90s, where you could go and get a half barrel of Bush Light for $25, and the tapper deposit, we would always get so mad because the tapper deposit was like $45. It was more than the keg of beer was. But I've always been a Bush Light guy, and now that Yingling is finally in Wisconsin, like I mean I've got a cooler full of Yingling here behind me, and I've never had Yingling before until recently, and I absolutely love it.
My wife and I got 6 kegs for our wedding. We did our wedding in North Carolina. So the venues down there, are some of them are still kind of the prohibition law, so we had to kind of bring our own in.
Okay.
And so we got 6 kegs, and we got 4 Bush Lights, and we got 2 Yinglings. So
Oh, nice.
uh,
Nice.
but so let's talk about Wisco dive bars. I know you've done quite a few podcasts here and there, so I'm not gonna harp on the same story of how you got it started and that type of thing. But so, like, monetizing that early success on social media, how did you do that? I know you talk about kind of the clothing sales a little bit. The hats were the first one I think you mentioned, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I first come out with hats, and I just Googled Wisconsin license plate hats, and I found them. I ordered a couple of them just to see if I would like them. I got them, and that's what stuck. And I've sold so many of those hats. That's kind of my calling card. And then, to go with hoodies and t-shirts and thermals and all sorts of different stuff. But the early success of my small business really relied on the merchandise sales, because it's so expensive for me to do all the traveling that I do. And I just, to have that extra money was so big, and I got to the point where the account started running itself, financially. And in the last year and a half, 2 years have been, such a steady climb, and things are going amazingly well.
The So you have the iconic hat, and then you obviously have your branded logo that
Yep.
is on your sweatshirt there.
Yep.
Do you have any other designs? And if so, did you have to like outsource that to graphic design? I know uh, in one of the podcasts you kind of doing drop shipping now. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, I have a Furlong Design Studio does
Okay.
my merchandise. I've had a couple different companies, but I've been with Furlong now for about a year and a half. And Carrie, who runs that, she's incredible, and I've got her working hard on some stuff right now. But she'll come up with ideas. Sometimes it's my idea, and like, so this logo on my hoodie, kind of my main logo, this one here that's on my glass as well. That was I designed that in my head before I even actually had the account. It was crazy. I kind of did things backwards, where I created the merchandise in my head before I actually created the account, before I created any content. But I've like some neon. I've got neon license plate hoodies and stuff. That stuff has been selling like fire the last 4 or 5 months. Sometimes ChatGPT helps a ton with designing stuff. If not the final design, maybe even just an idea, and then run from that. And like I said, my merchandise lady Carrie is amazing at designing stuff as well.
Yeah, on the Tap podcast 3 years ago, you said initially when some of bigger influencers kind of stepped into the dive bar tour territory, you kind of had to take a step back initially and think about what you were doing it for. And it ultimately is the dive bars, right?
Yeah.
With now having retired and putting all your eggs in this basket, so to speak, does that make you a little more nervous that someone could come in and try doing the same thing today? Or do you think, since you're so established now that, there's really no way, like, you've kind of cornered this niche market, so to speak?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people trying to do stuff, and I welcome competition. I'm not worried about it at all. It'd be like somebody coming up with pizza reviews, and I think Dave Portnoy is pretty safe. I mean, not to compare myself to Dave Portnoy, but But I'm confident in what I've built, and I know there's a certain account online that's trying to charge $250 to do a review at a bar, which I think is laughable.
Yeah.
I do these reviews for free. I'll do meet and greets and stuff where I'll do events where I'll charge just basically to cover my costs and hotel rooms if I need it. But I've reviewed 1,142 bars in Wisconsin, and I've all the regular reviews. I do those all for free just to support this amazing bar culture that Wisconsin has.
Yeah, I know. To kind of expand on that story, you actually kind of had to go and tell your friends like, hey, or your followers like, hey, it's all right, it's all right. Was it humbling seeing like one how big your following was, and two how hard they rode for you like at the end of the day?
Oh, that was incredible, and that was, gosh, I don't remember if that was within the first year, maybe 6 8 months. And then when there was a bar video posted from Miles, the You Betcha guy, which
Yeah.
I've never met him. I think he's great. I think him and Charlie Barons do amazing work together, and I laugh at their stuff, and sometimes I think, gosh, like, why didn't I think of that? Because it's so funny. But that's just a hats off to them, and I literally do. I had to post. I'll make a post on Facebook and say, hey guys, like it's fine. And Miles reached out to me on TikTok, and we had a nice little conversation. Not a long conversation, but back and forth a handful of times, and he was nothing but great. And I just doing this, I let everything happen organically. I know Charlie and Miles have talked about me on their podcast, and I haven't met them. I know they're probably way busier than I am, and I'm insanely busy. But we'll cross paths. We'll cross paths, and it'll be nothing but great when it does happen.
has has this venture led you to anyone like meeting someone that you never thought you'd meet in your life?
I guess I'd never even thought about it, but I don't know if you know, but I was drinking beers with Jim McMahon here a few
Oh,
weeks ago.
really? I did
Yeah.
not. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
We hit a couple dive bars together through a friend of mine, Sean Labersky, who's a great guy. He's got so many connections, and he invited me up, and there was a probably a group of, was there maybe 7 or 8 of us that went out and hit some bars with Ross Verba as well, former Packer offensive
Yeah.
lineman. Him and Jim were great, and Jim McMahon is hilarious, and he don't care. Like he just doesn't care. But there was so much more to his story than what I knew, and I just had so much respect for him after hearing his story, and he's a down to earth guy. He fits right in with the Wisconsin dive bars for sure.
He's exactly who he presented himself out to be when he played football.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
On that same path, do you get like a ton of cool like knickknacks and stuff sent to you, being the Wisco Dive Bar
I
guy now?
do. Yeah, I have people send me stuff all the time, and whether it's sometimes like I've gotten anything from t-shirts to hoodies to dive bar books to merchandise. I don't know if I have any cool stuff hanging up here. I know I've got a hodgepodge of so much stuff floating around here, but um yeah, I'm spoiled, that's for sure. I mean, people treat me so great, and I'm nothing but respectful when I go into these great bars, and I think that has a lot to do with my success is how I treat other people.
I know on the Passion podcast you talk about, you know, tweaking little things, right? Like how you edit something, or something to continuously make the videos better. How many iterations so far of how you shoot and edit do you think you've gone through until you've kind of found a, a winning formula, so to speak?
There's been a lot along the way, just like a lot of it, just minor stuff. And one of the things that I did that I'm so glad that I did, and actually my competition they didn't force me to do it, but gave me the idea, was I was getting recognized by voice so much that I would typically just my early videos, I would do my intro, and then I would write up a review and post on Facebook, and I would just put music that kind of matched the vibe of the bar, or maybe a song that kind of almost matched the name of the bar, which I was always great. But then I started doing the voiceover stuff, and then I think that's when things really started to take off. I don't know if it was just a coincidence or what, but it puts doing that actually puts more feeling into it too from my end. I think I don't know what the if that's the winning formula or what, but
It's the winning formula for right now, right?
right, right.
So I think your maximum in the early days was 22 bars in 36 hours. You said you've done it a couple of times. Was there ever a point in like those early days where you got a little bit of burnt out from doing it, or were you seeing so much return on how many views and stuff that the videos were getting that it was actually driving you to work harder?
I think maybe a little bit of both. I know there's times where I'll get burnt out, but but the drive that I have, and like you're saying, like the response, just feeds me more. And it's definitely early on. It took some time and effort to try to figure out some sort of rhythm on how to do things, where to do things, and I think I found that sweet spot. But now I actually retired from my carpentry job last Wednesday, so now I have the weeks available too. Um, so now it's trying to, it's like starting all over from scratch, trying to find a new balance.
Right.
I just got back from a road trip. I left Saturday morning at 8:30, and I got back yesterday, Wednesday, 3:30. So it was a long
Okay.
road trip, but
When I guess when you first started out and you still had that carpentry job, was that and you started doing this, you film these on the weekends that you don't have your daughter.
mhm.
Um, was that a tough transition for your now fiance?
I think it was, and I think it still is. I mean, we had a conversation tonight, just with this transition period that we're in. Like she worked today. She got home, and we actually went out to a local dive bar, had a couple Yingling flights, and had some dinner and just some chill time. It's not very often that I get to go out and just be a normal dive bar patron, but I think I need to get used to that because I think it's maybe going to happen a little bit more now that I have more spare time. But yeah, it's always important. We need to communicate, and I think with every relationship, I think communication is key. And sometimes we lose that when I get super busy, and I'll be the first to admit. Sometimes that goes awry, and it's my fault, not hers. But we just got to talk about it and get through it, and that's what it's about in every relationship, no matter what each other is doing for a hobby or a job.
Even if you talk about going to a dive bar, I guess um, even if it's not a dive bar or it is a dive bar, when you get in a bar, does it feel tough to turn off the work brain? Because it's so closely associated with what you do for your actual, real life.
Yeah. I think at one time I think it really was. And like we were out an hour and a half ago, and it wasn't at all. I mean, I was, still talking to people. I always have followers that are there that I talk to. So that's I always embrace, seeing my followers, and luckily it wasn't overbearing or anything tonight, just some good conversations, and I think just one selfie I think was all. So I think people are respectful for the most part, and they can tell when I'm not working and when I'm, just trying to have a decent laid back time, with my fiance like I was tonight.
Is it so I know you try to interact even with all the comments on your stuff. Um, when you're out like that and people are coming up to you, um, does it ever get to be a little bit too much, or are you just so appreciative that people are buying into kind of what you're doing still?
Yeah, I would say maybe sometimes it gets to be a lot. But at the same time, like I welcome it because I mean, this is what I wanted, and I love all of my followers. I wish I could have beers with all of them. There's so many, and I just embrace everything that comes with the territory. And like yesterday morning when I woke up in Milwaukee, and I looked at my phone, and my phone absolutely was blowing up. I had hundreds of messages, and which isn't, a lot of messages is not uncommon, but uh, yesterday morning was different, and I found out that there was a bar. It's not maybe a half hour north of where I live, and they had a fire and they lost everything 2:30 yesterday morning, and I was floored. Um, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to respond, and I couldn't do anything. I was 5 hours away from home, and I took that 5 hour drive, and that's all I was thinking about was them. And I've actually got my dive bar calendar here, and they're actually one of the featured bars in the
Nice.
calendar. My friend Jessica that works there, UW Wanderoos, just outside of Amory, was the bar. It was an old schoolhouse turned basement bar that had a ton
Okay.
of history, and it was gorgeous. And I was actually just there January 1st, and heartbreaking. And I actually did a lot of work today, trying to figure out how to help raise some money. And there was a lot of tears today. I'll admit it. I finally got a chance to unwind and just kind of soak it all in, like what had happened, and seeing all these posts on Facebook and all the other area bars and businesses that are coming together to help everybody out. That's what it's all about. And I can't even imagine losing everything and having to start over. And then unfortunately, there was a lady that lived upstairs too that had passed away. So I mean, that's something that can never get back. But it just goes to show how fast things can change. There's a reason I post everything positive, because it's such a unfortunately, we live in a time where people thrive on negativity, and honestly, it makes me want to puke. There's days where I don't even get on social media other than to post my stuff, and I have to get off because of the disconnect that so many people have, and the lack of respect that people have for each other on both sides. And it's unfortunate that it takes something like a major fire like this to bring a community together and have people stop thinking about politics, and just the poison that stuff breathes into everybody's life. And but everything, you can find a silver lining in everything, like I do with my reviews, and that great community over there in Polk and St. Croix County areas. I know they're a pretty tight knit group, and they're going to come together and make things better. Like I said, you can't replace a life, but those memories are always going to be there. And I know someday we'll get together at the new UW Wanderoos, and we're going to talk about all the great memories of the original UW. So it's just one day at a time. That's all we can do, and help each other out, and be respectful, and love one another. It's not a common thing nowadays, but I think it needs to be more common.
Yeah. So when I was kind of coming up with topics and uh, what I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to ask, I thought reread my messages to you, and I'm like, what? Why did I do that? Why did I say, oh, you should check this out? I'm sure you get that so much, but like thinking back in my head, like it it's almost like people are wanting to share a piece of themselves and their experiences with you, and then you share it with thousands of people. I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love it. I love being kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, I guess, spokesperson for the bar culture that is. And now I've started doing some stuff with Russell Nicolay. I've done his Midwest Legends podcast a couple times, and we've got some spin-off segments of Dive Bar Legends off of that podcast that will be coming out. We filmed some of them, and the bar culture in the state is it's definitely, we're known for drinking, and it's not all just uncontrollable drinking. It's a camaraderie. It's the original social media. That's where people go to congregate and wind down from a hard day's work, and it's just what people have been accustomed to. It's two, three, sometimes even four, sometimes five generations deep, and it's so easy to get sucked into these great places, because I tell people it's these dive bars are the coldest beers and the warmest hearts, and that's why I am absolutely addicted to them.
It's very true, but it's always kind of funny going into, and I'm sure you get this quite a bit, like the regulars at the at dive bars. When you first walk in, it's like, it's almost a look of like, who is this guy and why is he here? Like this guy does not belong here. But then you
Yeah.
get to talking to him, and it's like the nicest people in these bars.
Yeah. Well, and it was hard. Like at first, when I started, like I told my story of what I was doing to so many people traveling to these bars because I never walk into a bar just recording. I'm a lot of times I'll do my intro outside, so my excitement and my enthusiasm about a place is legit. I don't know what it looks like inside. I'm just judging it by the outside, and but I go in and these people have embraced me with open arms. And I know there's some people that don't like to be on camera, but for the most part, I would say 99.8% of the people absolutely love being on camera. And I love it when people will comment and tag their friend and say, "Oh, you're famous," and that's great. I love that, and it's like I'm a team with. It's not just me. I mean, I do this all myself, but I'm a team with these bars. They know I'm there to help, and the more money I can make these bars, the more money they can pay their employees, the more money they can pump into the communities. It's a win-win for everybody, without a doubt.
Speaking of your videos, do you think there's a time frame or sweet spot to keep viewers' attention for those?
As far as posting on a length of a video, or
Yeah, length.
at first I think I was keeping my videos around 45 seconds. Now it's I would say minute 20, minute 30. I've had some videos that have been longer that have gotten lots of views. But there's definitely that attention span thing. But sometimes these bars, there's just so much to say and so much to share, and it's like I can't possibly give a whole. I mean, even a 110-year-old bar, you can't give the history of the 110-year-old bar in a 70-second video. So I always try to do it justice, find that balance, and but it's hard sometimes, and sometimes it's a little bit easier, but um yeah, it's every bar is different.
You talked about the calendar behind you. I know you got a vodka. Um, the most impressive thing that you guys kind of created is I actually probably doesn't generate that much revenue other than like you know foot traffic to the site is your website. So how did
Yeah.
that come about, and like how did you come up with that idea? Because it's genius, because not only can people see where you've gone, but they can also click directly into your videos.
Yeah, so it was something that I think I came up with about a year into it. I had the idea. It was actually a friend of mine's cousin, my buddy Kevin, who lives in Green Bay. His cousin Brent, he's like, I was talking to Kevin about doing some sort of website thing, and he's like, well, you should talk to my cousin Brent. So Brent designed the website for me, and that was probably the suckiest thing I've ever had to do in this, because I was, gosh, I don't remember how many bars in I want to say like 300 bars in. So I literally had to go on with a spreadsheet, put down the bar's name, Google, take the Google URL, copy paste it in my spreadsheet, go on YouTube, take the YouTube URL, copy paste it, and then go in, open my website, and and do all that manually, type in the address. I mean, I wanted to puke. It was so much, but and now I update it. I usually update it once or twice a week. I'll get 4, 5, 6, 7 bars, and I'll update it. Um, but it was brilliant. It's very handy. I use it myself. Like I can zoom in. You zoom in on any area. You can
Yeah.
click on any pin, and the closer you zoom in, the bigger you see the gaps, places that I haven't been, and I'll use that sometimes if I don't have stuff planned and I just want to go in and fill out the fill in some of the gaps in the map. So yeah, WiscoDiveBars.com. If people don't know, you just Google Wisco Dive Bars, and I think it's the first thing that pops up.
This is really random, but you talk about country boom in a couple podcasts you do. I don't I don't think so. It sounds like you got some pretty deep ties there. But anything we could do to convince you to come up to Hodag up in Rhinelander instead?
That's the same exact
It's
weekend.
the same weekend, yeah.
Gosh, I know, like it's I want to experience that too, and it's just that's the thing with Wisconsin. I feel like we cram a year's worth of fun in between Memorial Day and Labor Day,
Yes.
and it's like, man, because I do like summer jam is the third week of June, and then I think 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later is Country Boom. The weekend after the fourth, following weekend is Country Jam, and there's another weekend like there's
Did they ever bring back Country on the River and Prairie du Chien there?
I
Or
haven't heard
no?
I haven't heard of that one, but yeah, they do Summer Jam and Country Jam here in Eau Claire, and they're both incredible. Summer Jam was something new last year. It's man, I spend so much time, when I'm in VIP and it's free beers and it's
Yeah, right.
so much fun. I think the coolest thing about going to those music festivals is not only just getting treated like so well, but those are the places that I go to where I see the most followers. Like I will go there and there'll be 5,000 of my followers in one spot, and I just can't get enough of hanging out with my followers and taking pictures and shaking hands and fist bumping and hugging, and I think that's one of the things that I do, which makes it so special, is that everything is grassroots. It's I'm there, and get to meet me in person, and I'm absolutely humbled and honored to be treated the way that I am by so many people. It's incredible, and it feels absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I think that's why people relate so well to you, follow you so well, is because you're you're a Wisconsin guy, right? You're a genuine Wisconsin guy. So it's tough,
Yeah,
Wisconsin people love Wisconsin people. It's
and
just how it
I've
is.
told
Like
yeah I've
anywhere
told
you go, you can find a Wisconsin person. And
right, and
I
I've
tell
told
my wife
people.
that all the time.
Yeah, I've told people so many times there's nothing Wisconsinites love more than Wisconsin. And I joke with my fiance. I've told her like even years ago when I started this, I'm like, man, if I could just get $1 for every time somebody says, I thought you were taller. It's like I am a lot of things. Tall ain't one of them, unfortunately. But I'll blame my mom's side of the family for that for sure. But I've been telling people like, hey, God was going to make me tall or sexy, and obviously He didn't pick tall. So
You just say, I got those good camera angles when I film.
yeah.
That's why.
Well, and I don't know why, because I'm doing this when I'm like
Right,
I'm not
right,
filming it like they film the Green Mile or like when they would film Rocky, to make
right.
Sylvester Stallone look bigger. But it is what it is. I embrace who I am. I can't change it. So um, yeah.
You talk about you talked a little bit about at Country Boom, people kind of coming around you and drinking with you, and I assume that's very similar in the bar scene. And then people want to start buying you rounds. Do you have a go to that you say when you like kind of want to tap out or you're trying to leave, or are you an Irish goodbye type of guy?
No, I don't ever Irish goodbye. I mean, I try not to anyway. I mean, maybe to some people, maybe I do. If there's, if I'm at a bar where there's 50 people or whatever, maybe I can't say goodbye to everybody. But a lot of times when I do leave like that, and there's a big group of people, I will make an announcement, like, and kind of tell everybody goodbye at the same time, because that's my hardest job, is getting out of so many of these places, because I could stay there all night, and that's what's nice. I love when my fiance comes with me, because she's getting me out of there. She's like got the cane pulling me
Yes.
pulling me to get me out, and she gives me crap all the time, because I just love interacting with my fans. And but there's sometimes there's an itinerary, and I've got more work to do.
I assume the bar choosing process goes by region. I'm sure you batch them kind of within maybe like a 40-mile radius, something like that. But how do you choose which area? What kind of research goes into that process of choosing?
Some of it goes into, like, maybe sometimes I get pulled to a certain area for business, and then I'll head down. Like if I go to Country Boom, I'll hit bars around that La Crosse, West Salem area. Sometimes I don't like to plan things January and February, just because sometimes I have to avoid snowstorms and
Yeah.
ice storms, and try to pick the least. Where there's been times where it's like the entire state's going to get pounded. Like, where do I go?
Right.
And I recently did that a few weeks ago. I was going to plan a trip to Hurley, but I didn't tell anybody I was going, just in case. And they had some storms go through up there, and I don't think it was as bad as what the weather people said. But instead, I decided to go to Platteville. Instead, I was down in the Platteville area, and man, I had an absolute blast down there. And I'm so glad that I chose that. But I'm still going to try to get to Hurley But yeah, it's a lot of times it goes by if there's a bar that all of a sudden it's been suggested 50 times in the last 2 weeks. I'm like, where is this place at, and why is it getting suggested so much? And I've got to go check it out. So there's different strategies as far as places that I hit, and I always like to, I like to bounce around the state. I mean, I was in Platteville, then next thing you know, I was north of Green Bay and down in Milwaukee. So I like to just keep bouncing around rather than just keep pounding the same area,
Yeah.
over the course of a month.
Um, with the new sponsorships, have there been talks about? I mean, I assume it's going to happen at some point, right? Like you're going to have to expand to other states. And
Yeah.
do you think? I mean, I assume your Wisco diehards will still ride with you if you're not
Yeah.
doing Wisco reviews, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
I think it's, so I mean, I've 1142 bars. I mean, there's 9,000 bars in the state. Like, I'm not going to run out of content for a
yeah.
long time. But I always enjoy heading to other states. Like, I'll be 20 days, I'll be in Arizona, and I've reviewed 18 Arizona bars. You can see on my website, those are on there as well. So I mean, when I'm on vacation, what do I do when I'm on vacation? I review dive bars. I don't ever, never really on vacation, but I think it would be fun to sneak away to the UP and hit some UP bars and see how Wisconsin like they are, and come back and hit more Wisconsin bars, and maybe I don't know, maybe take a few trips a year out of state. I know I've had some chats with Yingling. They want to get me out to Pottsville, Pennsylvania, where their beer is brewed. It's actually brewed in Milwaukee as well now too, but that's where their home brewery is. That's been around since 1829. But yeah, I think it would be fun. But obviously, Wisconsin are my roots, and it's no different than Wisconsinites when they go on vacation. They love their Wisco dive bars, but when they go on vacation, they like to find bars too. So, um, and especially if I go out and hit a Packer bar like I did in Arizona last year, I think that's always great. I think that makes great content for my channel as well.
um, did you say you had just recently started drinking Yingling?
Yes, I had never tried it. And I've got a friend that is just a Yingling nut, and I've always wondered how in the world he gets it in Wisconsin. So, yeah, I've only tried the regular Yingling, which I have here. I actually have a few bottles of the Flight in the house that came in I don't know, a promotional deal that I picked up at Wolski's the other night. But that's what I had on tap tonight too. And like I love the Flight. I'm a light beer drinker, but without question, I mean their original lager it's the best lager that I've ever had, and I'm not just saying that because I'm partnered with them. I mean, I believe that. I was telling people that before I signed on with them.
The only reason I ask is Yingling coming to Wisconsin is a little bit bittersweet for me because my wife and I, like I said, we love the beer Yingling, but it's kind of our vacation beer
Okay.
because whenever we go east, predominantly Florida, the one time a year we go down there, we just binge, Yingling, and then we're back to Bush Light when we get back here. But now the sweet part is we get it year round. So
Yeah. Well, it'd be like going some people when they go on vacation, before they go to Mexico or whatever, they start tanning to get ready for vacation. Well, now you can start drinking
that
Yinglings at home to prepare yourself to drink more Yinglings in Florida. So,
that is a
um,
great point.
and yeah, I haven't been. The last time I was in Florida was, I used to love to go down there. I haven't been down there since a hurricane hit, but I was down there, whatever year it was, COVID, when Tom Brady won the Super Bowl in Tampa. Like, I was out tailgating in front of Raymond James Stadium for 5 hours, and it was glorious. It was so much fun. I love Florida, but I guess I didn't even Yingling wasn't even on my radar at that point because I don't travel east a whole lot, so
Yeah.
I always travel west. It seems like so.
Yeah, well, we're fortunate. My in-laws are snowbirds, so
Oh, nice,
we get a free place to stay every year. So
perfect. Can't complain about that.
uh, do you have any interest at some point going into owning a dive bar yourself?
I I don't know. I tell people I'll own a dive bar. when I walk into it, I own it. When I leave it, they can have it back. I know it's not a glorious job, and I know it's hard. I know it's hard what they do to make ends meet, and it's so hard sometimes to find good people, to work that aren't gonna rob you blind and are gonna show up every day. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't say never, but right now, definitely not. That's for sure. But yeah, we'll see. Well, who knows what the future holds.
You talked in that Milwaukee Uncut episode, that podcast, about some of the travels you see and just the various, kind of beautiful landscapes that are in Wisconsin. Citing the driftless area, you were just recently there. But have you thought about writing a book more focused around your travels and some of the more interesting experiences and encounters?
It's been offered to me,
Okay.
and recently even, and even over the last couple of years. I think it might be something that I'll look into. We'll see, how much time I have. Like I was saying, like it's, with this newfound freedom, I'm not too worried about the money that I make. I didn't ever do this to get rich, but with money brings freedom. It actually it allows me more time to myself and to spend time with my fiance and family. So, but yeah, I don't know. I never really thought about that either until people brought it up, and I'm like, I don't. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I'd be all for it if we can find time to do it and make sense, financial sense. I know it costs a lot of money, a lot of publishing and all that stuff, but yeah, we'll see.
Uh, I think it was that same podcast. You talked about taking a minnow shot. Is that the weirdest or only shot you've taken with a living thing in it?
Gosh, I think it is the only thing I've taken the living. It actually wasn't even that bad. But yeah, I guess it probably is. It's probably the only living thing that I've ever drank intentionally in my life, other than swallowing a bug or something. But yeah, that was funny, and it was funny. Like it's you put on the spot sometimes with questions, and I watched that episode back last night, laying in bed with my fiance, and I'm like, it's funny. People ask me the weird things I see, and it's like I don't even think of like wood tick races up in Oxbow. I'm like, what? But that to me that seems normal. But racing wood ticks is another cool thing that I've taken part of, and it's well, I don't know. It's only weird if you're not from Wisconsin, right?
Well, I don't know. We when we were out in Colorado one time, me and my buddy did a. It was a pickled scorpion shot. It was pickled vodka with a scorpion in it.
What?
Yeah,
You eat the
dead,
scorpion?
dead. It was dead, but they
No.
obviously took the stinger out. But yeah, he did not take it so well. I mean,
Yeah,
for me, it was like normal shot. You just got to throw it to the back of your
yeah,
throat.
I did. So I did have. It wasn't alive, luckily, but I actually just popped up in my memories earlier this week when I was in Arizona a few years ago. I don't know where my friend got them, but they were like, I don't know if they were freeze dried crickets, I think. And I'm like, I remember we were at the Horny Toad in Cave Creek, and she whipped them out, and I was like, was on video. I'm like, I can't believe I'm eating this, you guys. Like, but so you
That's like
didn't.
those. I don't know if you're a big state fair guy, but the state fair had those donuts with the crickets and I think they were like mealworms and stuff on it.
No way.
Yeah,
No, no, no,
yeah.
thanks.
We always do the state opening day of state fair, or try to get to opening first week, but and then we do like make our rounds of the new interesting foods, and that was one where we were just like, nope,
Is
we're
that
not,
is that
nope.
in West? Is that in West Bend?
That's uh it's right outside the stadium.
Yeah, because I know
I
there's a
can't think
Northern
of.
Wisconsin State Fair that actually goes on here in Chippewa Falls. It's like 2 or 2.5 miles away, but I think that's the same weekend as Country Boom as well. So um, you just got to
the
pick your
the
battles
first
with it.
weekend of the state fair, I think, is the first week of August.
Okay.
first Wednesday of August.
Okay.
Um, but looping it back here, we got kind of off there. But so prior to just recently retiring, you said you're putting in 100-hour weeks and typically getting around 4.5 hours of sleep a night. Where do you think that drive and work ethic came from?
My parents, 100%. Even my grandpa, like I said, growing up on, kind of growing up on his farm, I just saw how hard he worked. And I just there's a lot of people in my family that weren't afraid to work and aren't afraid to work. And I just think growing up seeing that, I think it's just that's what you do is you just work hard, and I've had issues with some surgeries that I've had in the past, and like I tore a ligament in my hip, and my surgeon told me I was going to be off work for 3 months. I was going to be on crutches for a month, and I said, well, that's a cool story, but I'm walking out of this place, just so you know. And he said, well, you are not. And I said, I am too. He's like, I know you are, but legally we have to wheel you to the door. So um, I was never on crutches. I was back to work in 3 weeks just because that's what blue collar people do, I guess. I don't sit around and expect a handout. I've got way too much self pride to do that.
Mine's a little more probably young stupidity, but I played semi-pro for a little bit, semi-pro football for a little bit, and had a hairline fracture in my collarbone. And I came back 2 weeks, and the
Ouch.
doc when I went to the doctor, he's like, to be honest with you, I wouldn't play. I would just give up playing because it's not worth. I mean, semi-pro is in Wisconsin is essentially like people are not going to like hearing this, but it's like beer league football kind
Yeah, yeah,
of.
yeah.
uh,
That
but
had to
so
hurt.
I was like, well, whatever. Still pops when I do some shoulder stuff, but
Yeah, but when
uh,
you're a competitor, though, I mean, that's what people that compete do. I mean, you wanna be out there.
yeah,
Um, it's I know I played amateur baseball for a stint. I didn't play a ton. I know my surgeon told me because I tore my labrum in my shoulder and bicep tendon in my shoulder. He told me to never throw a baseball ever again. So what do? I took the summer off, and I was back playing the following year. But then I transitioned into doing the PA stuff for him. So just to stay involved, I mean, be a part of the team. It's that
yeah.
that team aspect is that's the hardest part about getting old and not being able to play sports anymore is just the camaraderie of these sports, which ironically enough, I think that same camaraderie is at these dive bars too, and um, I think that's where it all comes together, and that's why people love these places so much.
It's early in 2026. Do you have some goals for the year that you could share with us?
Oh man, I don't. I mean, I guess right off the top of my head, I can't think of any.
Are you
Um,
trying
you
to
know,
trying to top last year's
oh,
record?
I don't know. That 384 was a lot. That's a lot of bars. I didn't even realize that I was, you know, at those numbers of, over one a day. But I know one of the things was that sped up the process was getting to bar number 1,000. We had that party in September, and I locked it in like 2 months ahead of time. So I was like, I wanted to have it that weekend, the weekend after Labor Day. So I pushed a little bit harder to make sure that happened. But yeah, the pace didn't really seem much different than the pace the previous couple of years, but I don't know. I don't know if I was just able to be more efficient or if I was more thirsty. So I don't know. I don't know.
um, you have three daughters, right?
Yeah, three son and three daughters. Yep.
And the two of them are older, correct? Two of them are older than
Yeah,
21.
yep. I have yeah, my son is almost 29, and my
Okay.
oldest daughter just turned 28 a couple days ago, and then 24 and 14, almost 15.
Have any of your older children expressed interest in doing any reviews with you or any type of collaboration, or is that not really
Yeah,
interest?
I guess that's never been talked about. I know my son has mentioned to me if I want a driver, but he probably does owe me about $500,000. So,
I know
um,
you guys talked about it in the cabin podcast that you did with Guy. You know, you were talking about drivers, dine-ins, and dives.
yeah,
You called yourself the Guy Fieri of Wisco Dive Bars, and he's kind of bringing his kid in. You could do the same.
yeah. And it's funny because I've never even watched that show. I mean, I know there's been a few times where I'm at bars and it's maybe on, but I've never seen that show. And I remember right away as soon as maybe my first three, four, five bars. Ethan, a buddy of mine, said, "You're going to be the Guy Fieri of dive bars," and I'm like, I know who he was. You know, I
Yeah.
knew his face. I don't know if I knew him from something prior, but he's always reminded me of the lead singer from Smash Mouth. Unfortunately, he passed away. But yeah, I get what he's doing. Obviously, is phenomenal. I don't watch a lot of TV at all. I mean, sports or anything. Like if usually if the TV's on and I'm here with my fiance, it's on some sort of murder show or some body cam show that we were just watching here just recently.
Um, so I've been doing kind of this segment with all the athletes. I'm going to try to tailor it to Midwest influencers. So it's called Start, Sit, and Redshirt. So I'm going to list off three Midwest influencers, and you got to start one, you got to sit one, you got to redshirt one in the Midwest influencer game.
Okay.
So we're going to do Ryan Rubel, Charlie Barons, and Miles, the You Betcha guy. I'm not going to try to say his last name because I'm going to botch it.
Yeah. Man, they're gonna throw me those three all at once.
That's what I do.
Um,
That's why it's.
I would okay, so I'm gonna do this. This just I'm glad I thought of this. So I start obviously Charlie Barons
He's the Wisconsin guy.
yeah. I love Ryan. He doesn't live a few minutes from here. I was actually out with him on we closed the bars down on Tuesday night. So yeah, I've definitely then Ryan, and then I'd have to redshirt Miles because he's not from Wisconsin. He's a North Dakota guy, which isn't it's not a rip on him at all. But I got to go with my Wisconsin boys first.
Yes, agreed. I mean, same type of mindset, but I get what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
you gotta
gosh,
go with
that
the
was.
Wisco guy.
Oh, I can't believe you threw all three of those out at one time. That was man.
And then I mean, I don't know if you know a ton about uh, basketball, like the season where we had the championship run, but I gave Bronson Koenig, um, like Sam Decker, Frank Kaminsky, these guys that were just
Yeah,
they're
like Michael
absolute
Finley.
legends. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Finley. Yeah, yeah. That's funny.
So if I can switch gears a little bit to the dad side of it now, and kind of mixing in the social media, like with you kind of being an influencer yourself and seeing some of this stuff, are you worried? The 14-year-old, are you worried about some of the stuff you see on social media that your kids are seeing as well?
Yeah, there's just so much just life in general.
Yeah.
Man, there's just so much stuff out there. Yeah, it's my older kids obviously they're old enough to make their own choices. I guess maybe kind of set in their ways. But yeah, the younger kids for sure, the stuff that the stuff that I see, I even question like, why am I seeing this? I don't need to see this crap. Um, but yeah, I think social media can be a great thing and it can be an evil thing. I mean, I'd like to think that you know, raise my kids right and hopefully they know the difference between right and wrong. But obviously we know, especially nowadays, as a teenager, man, I'm so glad I'm not a teenager growing up nowadays. I mean,
Yes.
it was 1991 when I was 14.
It. I mean, I was born in '91, but even me growing up, it just felt way simpler than it is right now.
Right. Oh yeah. And the privacy and I remember I like talking to my kids, like it was mind blowing to them that I'm older than Google is, and like how did you ever get a hold of people? Like nobody had cell phones, and it was crazy how he always found a way to to meet up or something. Like I don't know. I don't know how we did it, but we were resilient. We were battle tested. And like so when I was 14, I mean, it was awesome because I was watching the Minnesota Twins win a World Series when I was 14. I got to see them win it when I was 10 as well. So
Yeah.
that was a great part of my childhood. Just having probably the only two times the Twins are ever going to World Series. I win the World Series probably, um, but yeah, it's definitely a scary time. There's no doubt, and you can only protect them so much, and that's kind of the scary part. But
Do any of your kids ever give you kind of do they ever watch your stuff and give you feedback on your content or how you show up online?
not really, I guess. Yeah, I don't. I guess maybe my youngest would be the one that her and my fiance's daughter. They're 14 and 13, so they might say something, but not a whole lot. My older kids, maybe my son will say something about some place where I'm at, or that he's been there before or whatnot. And but yeah, for the most part, it's we kind of most of the time it's my social media stuff. We keep that separate. Um, I don't know. It's just what we do, I guess.
Were there lessons that you learned raising your older kids that you consciously apply now with the younger ones?
Man, it's like I feel like I've been a parent all over again for the first time. Raising my youngest, it's like raising two different generations.
Yeah.
And I mean, life was so much different, and versus now, and even now, like just with the homework stuff. I remember like my daughter bring home math, and I'm like, I don't even like. I'm no help. I have no idea. Like I can show you how like the right answer. I'm a math guy, and I can figure stuff out in my head like lickety split. But I'm like, they want you to write all of this stuff. Like, what a waste of time. And I don't know. It just seems like even looking back at it now, like the stuff that we learned in school, it feels to me, and maybe it's just a career path that I took, but it just feels like 85% of it was absolutely useless. And there was certain things that I wish I would have learned, as far as like the importance of a credit score
Oh
and
yeah.
and stuff like that. As far as I could always do my own taxes, but not anymore. I can't, but thanks to the small business stuff. But yeah, I feel like there's just so many things that kids don't learn. Teach them how I don't know. You teach them how to do laundry. Like I always did. I had a foods class and like a home ec class, and I think those were like I was saying earlier. Those are hands on things. I think that learning to sew and sew by hand, and that's I've definitely sewing by hand has definitely come in way more handy than that semester I spent in my freshman year talking about Romeo and Juliet. Like, you know,
What kind of along the same lines, what values are you most intentional about modeling for your kids through both your content and your well, I guess not your content because they don't you said that doesn't really mix with you, but your day-to-day life.
I've always, especially I remember my son. I always remember preaching to him: if you're going to do something, do it 100%. Don't half-ass anything. Um, it's don't ever be afraid to work hard. I mean, there's working hard is never the wrong answer, no matter what. And it just it doesn't matter what you're doing, and always be respectful to people. It's treat people with kindness, and I'm always one of those people. If I don't care if I'm walking into Fleet Farm and I just notice people behind me. If somebody even walking in a Quick Trip, whatever. But if I see somebody 5 or 6 steps behind me, I'm always gonna open the door, hold the door for them, and just the little things in life mean mean so much, and you just never know what other people are going through, and so just yeah, just be kind and be a decent human being.
Do you think more so probably your older children, but do you think they understand and appreciate how much time and energy that and hard work that you've put into, you know, not only the when you're doing the carpentry and this, but this whole small business as a whole?
Yeah, I don't know if they've really seen it enough to really see what really goes into it,
Sure.
all day, every day. Um, but yeah, I think they know that I'm working a ton and I'm passionate about what I do, and I always make it a point to help people out. There's a lot of stuff that I donate throughout the course of the year. I get hit up for benefits all the time, and I'm always happy to do it. And I don't need to post on my socials like, hey guys, donated another couple $100 worth of stuff. That's not what it's about. Obviously with the fundraiser stuff with UW Wanderers that we're going to have going on, um, and like my toy drive that I team up with Russell Nicolay and Nicolay Law, doing that, like that means a ton to me to be able to use my format and give back to the people that just can't afford everything. And I tell people growing up, I grew up poor, like my parents worked hard, and I tell everybody we had 10% of what we wanted, but 100% of what we needed. And I think that's at the end of the day, I think that's what really matters.
So that segues perfectly into I always have these final two questions. The first one being, if your kids somehow come across this podcast, what is one thing that you hope they take away from it?
I just hope that they take away that that what I'm doing is it's not just for me. It's to help these bars out, and these I hoping out people that I don't even know a lot of the times until I do go to the places. But just just hard work and dedication, and being respectful, and just never being afraid to do the right thing, and to spread positivity, because the positive vibes that I give off, because all of my reviews are 100% positive, is definitely the type of vibe that I hope that my kids give off when they're out doing their thing, and in life, and wherever life takes them.
And then the final one, uh, I, I'm not sure how we're gonna do it. Are you familiar with any Wisconsin sports? I think you
I
said
am.
like you like the Brewers a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you think the Brewers are going to do this season now that they just offloaded their or traded their one of their best
Yeah,
pitchers away?
it's frustrating. I actually saw a clip of somebody saying that it's not the Dodgers that are ruining baseball; it's teams like the Brewers that are just not willing to pay people.
Yeah,
You know, as hard as it is to take, and with them trading such a vital key to what they have, the Brewers are always one of those teams that over in the recent years they'll find a way. I think Miz is going to step up. I think get more consistency out of him. I think they're going to be right there. They're going to be right there come September. Maybe you know 500, 10 games over 500. Looking that last month is going to be crucial. So yeah, I just think that they've got that fan base behind them that are always going to be there. It's always going to be Miller Park, no matter what anybody says. And I just think that they've got the right coach too, and right manager, and I think they'll be there. I don't think they'll contend for a World Series by any means, but I think that they're going to be the same old Brewers that are going to be a tough out, and they're a gritty, blue collar type team, and they're going to give teams fits. But
I feel like it's always a cyclical kind of process with the Brewers. We're at the spot right now where they let one of the best players go, and then they end up finding their way back to the playoffs and losing the first
yeah, and
round
I
or something.
remember, like, yeah, and it was the same thing, like 10 years ago, the Cardinals. It was the same thing. Like, no matter what, they're freaking always there. Like, they always
Yeah,
found a way, and I think the Brewers have become that team, and the Cardinals have kind of dropped off a little bit. I know they're kind of in a kind of retooling, but I think the Reds are looking good. Pittsburgh, yeah, man. What do you do with Paul Skeens? I mean, obviously
Right.
he's I just pray he doesn't wind up in pinstripes or with the Dodgers, but they're a fun team to watch. I mean, I would love to go to Pittsburgh and go watch a Brewer Pirates game for sure.
Yeah.
And then of course you always got the Cubbies there as well, and I think the Cubbies spend enough money to always keep themselves relevant. But um, it's always good to have a rivalry too. That's a great rivalry that the Brewers have had with the Cubs.
Yes. The Wisconsin Illinois rivalry has been reignited this last year. I feel like between football and baseball.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. The Bears have got their guy. I think Caleb Williams is the guy. There's Can't deny it. Doesn't mean you got to like the guy, but I think he's a competitor, and I still cannot believe that throw that he made to put that game into overtime. And I thought for sure they were going to go for two, but and I think they have the right coach too. You know, um, but I think it's good for the Bears to be better because it does make things more competitive and a lot more fun. And the division's tough. I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely tough. A lot of great players, and I think the jury's still out on Jordan Love. Can he make that next step, or is he going to be one of those guys that just isn't quite good enough and his salary hampers the rest of the team? You've got those quarterbacks in the league too, but unfortunately for the Bears, I mean, they've got 2 years. Their window's 2 years until Caleb Williams. God, who knows in 2 years what's he going to get? $80 million a year. It's important in today's NFL is you gotta make hay when your quarterbacks are on those rookie contracts. I mean,
All right. Well, I'm sure we could talk about sports till the cows came home, but huge thanks to Jared Schutz, the Wisco Dive Bar guy, for coming on today and sharing his story from community and culture to fatherhood and real life perspective. This was exactly what the Dodger is all about. Appreciate you, Jared, and thanks for everyone to listening. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe wherever you're listening, watching. Um, Comment who you want to see next. As always, on Wisconsin. Thanks, Jared.
I appreciate you, man.